Hello students, how are you? I hope that you're doing fine. Please take care of yourselves. Winter is coming. Keep yourself warm and healthy, please. Hola estudiantes, ¿cómo están? Por favor, cuídense mucho. Hace frío. El invierno está llegando. Okay. In the meantime, mientras tanto, we are going to keep studying our grammatical points. Okay, and tonight we're going to learn how to use the conditional perfect and why do we need it for. Okay, I will teach you tonight about it. So I need you to open your books on page 414. 414, and please follow this video with your book. If you don't have your book, put it pause, go and get it, open your book, and then you continue with the video, okay? All right, so we are going to remember about the compound tenses that use the auxiliary verb haber and a second verb in past participle. Remember that all the perfect tenses will use the verbo haber in present, past, future, or any subjunctive form. The verbo haber conjugated in any form, in any tense, plus a second verb in past participle. In this case, we're going to learn how to conjugate it with conditional. So this conditional perfect tense, remember, perfect tenses are made with two verbs. The auxiliary verb haber and the second verb in past participle. So, but in this case, the tense that we're going to use is the conditional tense. Which is the conditional of the verb haber? Haber, not haber, haber. The verb haber, that means there is and there are, or to have in this case. In English, we use it with to have done, have eaten. See, in English, it also exists. It's a compound verb with an auxiliary verb. In Spanish, it's the verbo haber, to have, and then in its conditional form. What's the conditional form of the verbo haber? The conditional form of the verbo haber is habría. So in our sentences, habría is going to be the first verb, the perfect verb, the auxiliary verb, habría. And that habría ending will give me the hint for conditional. So haber in this case is in conditional. And the second verb, depending if it ends in ado or ido, if it's an R ending verb, er ending verb, or ir ending verb. Comer, it's an ido ending, so it's comido. Yo habría comido. We're gonna see more examples in your book, but this is the main structure. The verbo haber in conditional form plus past participle. In English, remember that it's the verbs that are the verbs that end in ed, or the irregulars. So you need to go back and check your past participle verbs, especially the irregular verbs, because they don't follow the rule of the ado and ido. For instance, what will be the past participle of caminar? Caminado. Of vivir. Vivido. For instance, if I had had the opportunity, I would have lived in Paris. Si yo hubiera tenido la oportunidad, yo habría vivido en París. So this is just one example that I just made up for you to hear how it sounds and how it works in the structure. But it's the subject, auxiliary verb in conditional form of the verbo haber, and the second verb in past participle. That structure, it's very simple. But it is also combined with other sentences, mostly conditional, if sentences, see sentences, to complete the idea. Because if you say yo habría comido pastel, cake, it's like we are missing information. We're missing the information of the second sentence that we will use in combination with this conditional perfect. And I will let you know how to use it and how to make that complete, full idea, okay? And when do we use conditional perfect? So, in the meantime, haber o haber in conditional form with past participle second verb in ado or ido, depending on the ending of the verb. Yo habría comido. And that's a whole conditional perfect sentence. Well conjugated. In which cases do we need this verb? Well, this verb will help us to indicate an action that would have taken place in the past, but didn't. It didn't happen, but we're talking about the past. We're talking about a past that didn't happen, a hypothetical option. So would have, whenever you have in your heads, would have, you please translate it to habría. Would have, habría. Would have, habría. Would have, habría, and then the second verb in ado or ido because it's past participle. Okay, so that's about the structure. And now, as your book says, when are we going to use it? When we want to point an action that would have taken place in the past, que habría tomado lugar en el pasado, pero no pasó. Okay, something that didn't happen, but we're still speculating about the past. And we use this conditional perfect to indicate that it didn't happen. We're just speculating about the past. Let's see some examples. Okay, in your book. Página 414, you have these two boxes. The first box shows you how to conjugate the conditional. And the second is giving you examples conjugated. First the subject, then the compound conjugation, and then the translation. So, first, the conditional tense of the verbo haber will be habría, habrías, habría, habríamos, habríais, habrían. Then we have the formation of the conditional perfect tense. Habría vuelto. I would have returned. Habría comido. You would have eaten. Habría salido. You, he, or she would have left. Habríamos estudiado. We would have studied. Habríais hecho. You would have done. Habrían muerto. They would have died. So they would have, and the second verb died in past participle. Habrían muerto. Ellos habrían muerto if the police hadn't arrived on time. Si la policía no hubiera llegado a tiempo. Let me write it down. So I will erase this so I can write down some examples for you. For instance, we have ellos. Oh, it's not right. Hold on, sorry. Ellos hubieran muerto. Ellos hubieran muerto. Ay, perdón, sorry. Ellos habrían muerto. I got confused. Habrían muerto si la policía no hubiera llegado. So, this is two parts. This is the A part and this is the B part. So we still have the C here. Do you see? So, ellos, plural, habrían muerto. First verb in conditional perfect, and then the second verb in past participle. But that idea is not complete. We need a second part, another sentence that tell us under which circumstances. See if the police hadn't arrived. Si la policía no hubiera llegado. But it did arrive, so they didn't die. No? So do you see? Do you see how we use this one? Mm-hmm. So, let's continue with your book. On página 415. Like in English, conditional perfect is the Spanish conditional perfect is used to indicate an action that would have taken place but didn't. Lo llevé al hospital en mi coche. So, person A, Lupita says, lo llevé al hospital en mi coche. Person B says, yo habría llamado una ambulancia. If I were you, I would have called an ambulance. I would have called an ambulance. Because habría is would have. Habría, would have. So, hypothetically, this is my opinion. I'm just telling you what I would have done if I were you. So if I were you, I would have. So we use it a lot for, in this case of expressions. We use it also in English. We also say many times, if I were you, if she were you, if I were that person, I would have blah, 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 done this or done that. So it's a translation, okay? But remember that we need the second part. Otherwise, we don't have the information complete, and it's weird. It's not delivering any message, okay? You have a práctica, and it says that you need to transform these sentences like in the modelo. See, the práctica section. Then you have a lot of sentences there. There are 12. And says that you need to transform them into conditional perfect. For instance, they give you a simple sentence like, mi padre llevó 3 maletas. So that's the fact. It did happen. Mi padre llevó 3 maletas. If I were him, mi padre habría llevado una maleta. Or, my father habría llevado, would have taken 1 suitcase. So it's also a statement to say how you would have done something differently. It may be annoying because sometimes it's like my way is better, but we use it. And sometimes it's useful to give suggestions or to learn a lesson, right? Okay. The number 1 is here in your books. Nosotros fuimos a Nueva York. So nosotros fuimos a Nueva York. So you think in your head, if I were you, I would have gone to Paris. Si yo fuera tú, yo habría ido a París. So it's also a light way to criticize and say, well, I would have done differently. So you're expressing an opinion in a very polite way, very sophisticated way, just like in English. You're not saying that the other person is wrong. It's just, you're just saying that you would have done something differently. Maybe it's better, right? Viajamos en tren, número 2. Nosotros viajamos en tren. And then my parents say, oh, we would have traveled by airplane. Nosotros hubiéramos viajado en avión. Sorry. Nosotros habríamos viajado en avión. Nosotros habríamos viajado en avión. So, like saying, I would have done that differently. So, the fact is that me and my husband traveled by train. And then my parents comment, nosotros habríamos viajado en avión. And maybe it's not criticizing anything. Maybe it's just saying that because of their condition, because they are old, because they get tired, because they work too many hours in the car, because he cannot drive during nighttime. For many reasons, maybe nosotros habríamos viajado en avión. I'm sorry, I put airplane. En avión. And maybe then you can add more information. Porque yo no puedo manejar, ¿no? O porque nosotros no podemos manejar. Nosotros no podemos manejar. O porque no nos gusta manejar. O porque no tenemos coche, whatever, ¿ok? Nosotros habríamos viajado en avión. So, and those are the kind of comments that will need you to use conditional perfect to make a statement that you would have done something differently or reverse or contrary to the other person's action in the past, to state that something that didn't happen, okay, is just hypothetically, because the parents actually didn't took any trip. They were just speaking out their minds. Got it? So, well, let's do this. For your homework, you're gonna do the práctica, that is on página 415. So do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then you do the para conversar, it has 8. It has a modelo. Modelo is an example, okay? Modelo means example. Okay? The modelo says, mi mamá. And de haber sabido means if I had known. De haber sabido, if I had known, que vendrían, if I had known that you would come, mi mamá habría limpiado la casa. And now we are pointing at this part of the sentence that didn't happen. My mother would have cleaned the house, but she didn't, because she didn't know that they were coming. So analyze these sentences. This sentence, de haber sabido que vendrían. So you need to start your sentence with de haber sabido, if I had known. That's just a phrase you need to learn. De haber sabido que you vendrían, él vendría, nosotros vendríamos, whoever and whichever verb you adapt it here. And then the second part, you write it in conditional perfect. So you will do that on para conversar. It has 8 numbers. And then you have a summary of the tenses of the indicative. At the bottom, just for you to remember, hablo, como, vivo, in present. And then you have the compound tenses. He hablado, he comido, he vivido. It's just for you to remember the compound tenses or the tenses that are perfect, because they have 2 verbs. One is the auxiliary verb haber in any tense, and the second is the past participle verb in hado or ido. So it's just a reminder for you. Okay? So that will be it for this week. I am sending you an email that you're going to print and keep in your notes, because you will have to study it, not right now, but later. It will work for us like a map of the tenses that we have studied, and it has a description of the tenses and when to use them, how to use them. So you feel better and feel more like insight of the things that we've been studying. Please read it carefully. We will be using it. There are 2 tenses in subjunctive that we haven't seen yet. But when we are done with all the tenses that are mentioned in those pages, we will have a complete review. If everything goes well and you are doing fine, maybe we can have a get-together in my patio with social distancing and covering our mouths and using gel and everything, just for the general review, if you want to. After this, I'm gonna give you a week of break, so we will study some vocabulary that we also need. Let me know what kind of vocabulary you want to know. If you want a vacation vocabulary, if you want shopping vocabulary or Christmas vocabulary, give me some suggestions and we can work on it, or look in your book. We haven't seen many vocabularies here, so maybe you can choose one and we can just practice some of these vocabularies that we already have here. Let me know. You can also participate and suggest things, okay? And watch this video as many times as you need to understand and to do your homework. And then when you have your homework ready, you send it to me, okay? I'll see you soon next week. Please take care of yourself. Cuídense mucho. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Bye. Adiós. Gracias.